are you finding? Where are people from youth actually coming from?
Everywhere, nationwide, east to west coast. It's really nice to hear their discouragement turn into hope and seeing how much actually is out there if you look for it. And I had found it upon my own research online. I wanted to be more involved in the nonprofit spaces, mainly for ecologically based events, I would say. I missed getting out there. Where I'm from, there's a lot of green space, and I moved to Montreal, and I missed that. So I missed getting out there, getting my hands dirty, and I was looking for an initiative that allowed me to do that and also give me my own opportunities to establish things, trying to just have more youth involved with us, telling us what they would like to do. Since we are fully run by youth and for youth, I myself had chosen what I would like to do, and we want to give that opportunity to the rest of Canada's youth. The Campus Food Systems Project, that's a goal of ours. So that was a food sovereignty project that ran for quite a while nationwide. It was for university students. So this is something we want to get the ball rolling again for.
Welcome to another episode of the Environment in Canada podcast, a podcast about the environment in Canada by Sierra Club Canada. I'm Conor Curtis, Head of Communications at Sierra Club Canada, and today our podcast is with Danielle Romaine of our Sierra Youth chapter of Sierra Club Canada, which has got a lot of cool projects either launched or in progress. We're going to talk about how Sierra Youth is making space for youth in the environmental movement, and in the process turning despair into hope. Before we begin today, just a reminder that you can take action on environmental issues by visiting sierraclub.ca. We have tons of petitions, other actions and events, and regular news updates you can sign up for on the homepage. You can also find Sierra Club Canada on social media, and you can listen to the Environment in Canada podcast on the Harbinger Media Network, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. This podcast also airs on CKUT Broadcast Radio in Montreal, 90.3 FM, bi-weekly on Tuesdays at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Don't forget to click follow or subscribe to get the latest episodes from us. So Danielle, for those tuning in, who are you and what do you do?
Hi, my name is Danielle Romaine. I am currently the Youth Outreach and Communications Coordinator for Sierra Youth, and we are the youth branch of Sierra Club Canada Foundation, founded in 1996, and I just joined this year, so still getting myself established.
Yeah, and actually 1996, so I think it's 1971, Sierra Club Canada gets incorporated. So basically, the last 30 years that youth has been a chapter?
Almost. It's going to actually age out of youth soon, ironically.
So are you planning anything for the 30-year mark? Is that in the planning stages?
Yes, it is. We were thinking of having something for alumni, current volunteers, maybe people who want to be more involved, to sort of have a gala, have people mingle, have some fundraising events, just sort of get to know one another, where we came from, where we want to go, maybe have a 5-year vision plan during that. It's to be announced. I do think it is a lot of planning, so it's fingers crossed. But for now, it's something we're looking forward to.
No, that's excellent. And I know that planning process, well, of course, the whole sort of organization went through a planning process not that long ago in Guelph. So, and you were there, and it's one of these things where you sit down and everybody has a lot of different ideas, but you sort of find the ways to overlap them, and it's interesting. So on that note, obviously you've been working really hard on youth chapter stuff. What made you want to join Sierra Youth, and what do you enjoy most about being a part of it?
So before I joined Sierra Youth, I joined Sierra Club Canada Foundation through their new Let's Plant program. So this is something that was established this year in 2025. The goal is to plant 10 million native wildflower seeds throughout Canada, and I had found it upon my own research online. I wanted to be more involved in the nonprofit spaces, mainly for ecologically based events, I would say. I missed getting out there. Where I'm from, there's a lot of green space, and I moved to Montreal, and I missed that. So I missed getting out there, getting my hands dirty, and I was looking for an initiative that allowed me to do that and also give me my own opportunities to establish things in schools, programming in my own municipality. And so I joined with that. That being said, I knew that there was probably a better space for me. So then I looked into committees. I spoke with members at Sierra Club, and they had directed me to youth. And then I met Sydney Perez, the director, and it was all smooth sailing from there. Yeah.
Funny because Montreal is one of the probably greener cities in Canada. I mean, maybe Vancouver in it would be interestingly comparable, but then even Vancouver doesn't quite have the placement of parks. But like I come from a rural place myself, and I'm always, like I get to a certain point where I'm like, I have to get out of the city, right? Like, but it's interesting you mentioned that path of finding your way to youth, because I think one thing, and it's always a bit of a challenge from communications department, is Sierra Club Canada is involved in so many different things like Let's Plant, youth, and renewable energy, democracy, right? And then the next day it's biodiversity and bird conservation in Quebec, right? And what I often find when I talk to people who have been in the organization for a while is that what maybe isn't recognized about having all of those branches is that it actually is kind of like casting this wide net, and you get people who come in through one thing and then get involved in another, or actually start a new project that, the club had not considered before, but then brings in even more people because of that. So one of these funny things, because I think people sometimes are like, well, okay, so you work on energy democracy, but why are you also hosting a yoga event or doing plantings of wildflowers? It's like, because it's all interconnected, and ultimately, like, that's how you get beyond that climate community of we care about just the climate, and start bringing in other people into the community. And I don't know if there's anything about that journey that maybe in talking to other people who've joined youth, are there any similarities, or are you finding where are people from youth actually coming from?
Everywhere, nationwide, east to west coast. I do think there are quite a few more people in the Ontario region, BC as well, who are tuning in. However, it's very spread out. I do think they are following the same path of figuring out where they want to be. They had heard something about Sierra Club before. They want to know more. Where do I see myself? These are my opportunities. Oh, I wasn't aware. And then we sort of have a one-on-one meeting and go from there. And then they say, oh, I didn't even know that this was a possibility. So then they could end up on this podcast or in another committee, or joining an initiative in their own town that they didn't even know existed. So it's really nice to hear their discouragement turn into hope, and seeing how much actually is out there if you look for it.
Yeah, no, I hear you there. It is kind of rewarding to see. And I know there's actually a couple of youth people who are preparing or have prepared podcast episodes actually for this podcast that we're going to be airing in the future. So that's been really cool to see. So Sierra Youth has a lot of projects on the go, and could you speak to a few of them?
Sure. So currently we are reestablishing ourselves. Historically speaking, we had done a lot of grassroots and policy engagement, not so much grassroots programs in the past few years. However, that's something we would like to do. So I talked about Let's Plant a little bit. This is something that we would look to have incorporated into youth's programming as well. I myself had gone into schools before, paired with apiaries. We had done presentations, gone to tabling events, handed out thousands upon thousands of seeds. I was supposed to go plant actually this Sunday in a person's yard. However, that is not going to happen with the snow we got. So that's one program that I think is very versatile in what you could do, what you can involve yourself in. And that's something we're looking to make sure is an ongoing program year to year. We are also establishing all the committees. So our committees would look like grants writing, events, donor volunteer outreach, communications and marketing, social media and graphic design. And then we're also having policy analysts come in and do briefs and blogs and the podcast. So we're trying to just have more youth involved with us, telling us what they would like to do. Since we are fully run by youth and for youth, we would like to make sure that our volunteers feel supported. So in that way, I myself had chosen what I would like to do, and we want to give that opportunity to the rest of Canada's youth. There will be other projects in the future. I do think that this is something to be discussed and worked on in the future. I could say that we do want to re-implement the Campus Food Systems Project. That's a goal of ours. So that was a food sovereignty project that ran for quite a while nationwide. It was for university students. So this is something we want to get the ball rolling again for, because we see it very helpful. And it's just something that's good to get out there.
Having worked at a food bank, I can say I think it's one of the most important things that we can do in terms of, that more adapting to the sort of environmental impacts we're seeing, adapting to sort of the country's situation at the moment. I think, having food resources and having people know how to grow their own food, being able to place that is really key. It's something actually we've had a chat with a cooperative garden in Montreal before on the podcast, and it was amazing how much food they were growing for the local community. I mean, and this is a bit different than like that community plot system, right, where you have your own plot. This was really like people coming together and just growing this garden and then take what you need and give what you can sort of system. But it was actually really revitalizing the healthy food access that people had in that community. So very excited to hear about that project personally as something that interests me. What do you think are some of the biggest issues or opportunities youth are confronting today when dealing with environmental issues?
I would say finding that community. So it's been quite hard to find myself in a place where I feel that it's actually accomplishing something. These are people who are like-minded or could challenge me in a good way, and that there is this recurring space that I could go to. Mind you, since COVID, there aren't many places to go, but this idea of a third space, whether it be on Zoom or physically, finding that community can be quite challenging. I do think maybe it's due also in part to oversaturation. It's join this, join that, and then you spread yourself so thin that you can't really acclimate to a certain community and get yourself out there and established. Other issues that youth is dealing with today, environmentally speaking, is having that good mind space where you don't feel so discouraged, where you don't just give up and you're in this perpetual state of fear and isolation. It can be challenging to not only not have that space, but this debilitating, overwhelming sense that, oh my gosh, what is this all for? It's not actually helping. Climate change fear is ridiculously bad, I would say. And so in this way, people have a hard time just getting going and doing things. It's just not happening in that sense. And for opportunities, I would say that we have places like this. We have Sierra Youth. We have communities that are forming or are formed, that they're there to support you. There are people who have been around for years with knowledge to help you in this way. And to say, it's okay, I've been your age, I've done this before. I'm past it, you'll be past it too. These are the ways you can go about it. You can handle it gracefully. You can also sort of go in bullheaded and say, I'm going to take the bull by the horns and just sort of wipe the slate clean, make sure that everything goes our way, not only for myself, but for the future of people who are my age forward. And we would like to continue these opportunities. Don't be discouraged. It's easy to say, hard to do.
No, I'm really glad to hear that. I think it's a crisis all of us are facing, but I do hear it particularly from you. There was an interesting interview Jessica was doing with the climate curator at the ROM in Toronto, who was talking about trying to give like an optimistic speech on climate change to youth, and the youth just going, well, you're not telling us the truth because it must be terrible. And it's like I totally get that, right? Like I totally get where that comes from. It's very understandable, and I have days myself where it's like that. But it is that problem of communications where, and frankly, right, like could we make more money, maybe, if all we did was talk about pessimism and really drove that emotional, like you gotta give now because the world's going to end or something like that. Yeah, probably, but that wouldn't be the right messaging to do because it's not really, one, it's not really the truth, I don't think. And two, like at a certain point, as you're saying, it's like if you just are thinking about, you don't have a space in which to go, you're always confronted with a negative. Yeah, I mean, how can you expect anybody to do anything after that, right? Like it's hard, yeah.
Yeah, it would be exhausting in that way, I would say. Who would we be as a society? Sad, sad.
Yeah.
Like, I'd like to say bureaucracy, don't think about it. That's one tip I would like to give. Don't get discouraged by timelines. I think that's been a good opportunity in a way through the negatives, is seeing that there's more out there if you ignore bureaucracy and you still continue with the thing you want to do in your own way.
Yeah. I think even if you're engaging with, say, political leaders or bureaucrats, you almost need to ignore them in order to engage with them. Because if you work in on like their terms and you say, and you go into that meeting and you're like, yeah, I understand this is all you can do. No, you got to walk into the meeting and say, like, we need you to do this because of this, right? Like, and just totally ignore their framing of the situation. I mean, I've embraced a certain amount of absurdism about climate change because I just think that, like, if you're optimistic, well, yeah, you can lose faith. If you're pessimistic, you're not going to do anything. But once you kind of start to understand the sort of like the irony of the situations that we're in, but can still function in it, it's a lot easier. So I'm curious, how can people find out more or get involved if they'd like to join Sierra Youth or support your work?
Yeah, so they can reach out through sierraclub.ca and go to the chapters page. That will bring you to Youth's chapter page. You could go there, you could explore our programs, membership, volunteering. I would say you could also reach out to youth@sierraclub.ca for our email if you want to get involved. We do also have our Instagram, which is Sierra Youth Canada. Through there, we do have a link tree in our bio, so you can click on our Google form, you can join a committee, and it will also bring you to our website. So if you're having a hard time, please don't hesitate to go through there and visit us and see what we're about.
Thank you so much, Danielle. Really appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you so much, Connor.
Before we end today, just a reminder that you can take action on environmental issues by visiting sierraclub.ca. We've tons of petitions, other actions and events, and regular news updates you can sign up for on the homepage. You can also find Sierra Club Canada on social media, and you can listen to the Environment in Canada podcast on the Harbinger Media Network, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. This podcast also airs on CKUT Broadcast Radio in Montreal, 90.3 FM bi-weekly on Tuesdays at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Don't forget to click follow or subscribe so you get the latest episodes from us. We hope you enjoyed today's podcast episode. It's the giving season, and if you'd like to help us keep sharing stories like this, visit sierraclub.ca/ways to support/donate. Your gift, no matter what the size, helps us inspire action, protect nature, and amplify voices of this movement, as well as hold events like the ones featured in today's episode. Check out our donation link in the description as well.